During my education as a scientist, I have a master's degree in animal behavior and biology at the University of Zurich. I learned to break problems down into tiny little pieces. I learned to test hypotheses by eliminating variables step by step, by looking at the problem from a holistic point of view and ask the right questions. Sometimes that skill set is exactly what you need. You need to learn to ask the right question and to analyze a situation in order to find a solution for the problem you have with your horse. Sometimes it helps to take a step back, to put yourself in your horse's shoes, and then to investigate with an open mind and with curiosity. To have an investigative mind and be curious can often bring you closer to solving a problem than all the horsemanship skills or bodywork experience. Elle is a stunning 12-year-old mare, a Holsteiner mare, and she's competing in third level eventing, and it's a great horse. They love to ride her. They don't have any issues with her unless they get her ready in cross ties. Then, according to the owner, she turns into a biting maniac. In order to find the cause of the problem, she got also looked at by a vet and got diagnosed with ulcers as a possible cause for the problems in the cross ties. I got asked to check out Elle, use my visceral osteopathy knowledge in order to look at her digestive tract. But when I listened to the problem they have, I had a lot of questions in my head which needed to be answered first. So my investigative mindset kicked in and I wanted to analyze the situation before I started working on her body. I do have a lot of compassion for horses who do not like cross ties. I don't think I would like it either. You're strapped down, you cannot look what's going on, you cannot react, you're just tied down. And I'm sure that a lot of people who don't like the dentist and would not like it if they would be strapped down in the dentist chair. So for me, everything you do with a horse in cross ties should be possible off the cross ties, outside of the cross ties, and the horse needs to trust what you're doing and needs to like what you're doing, and then you don't have any problems with the horse in the cross ties, and you might even don't need the cross ties. There is a video of Elle in the cross ties. I did not look at it before I started to work with her because I didn't want to have any judgment towards that horse and I just want to be neutral. When I looked at that video after my session, I realized that owners often perceive a problem way more dramatic than it actually is. I expected a totally different behavior of Elle, and I realized that the owners come in with their own problems, with their emotional challenges, and then the problem of the horse just adds onto it, and it's not always that neutral. In order to help Elle with her problem, I wanted to investigate first, and I needed to figure out what are actually possible factors that cause that behavior. So with all these questions in mind, I approach Elle and see how she reacts when she's completely free, without bridle or anything. The fact that she kind of looks away and tries to ignore me a little bit shows me that touch is not the most comfortable thing for her. Also, her ears were facing back. My first impression is that she does not really know what to do with that touch. I think she gets mostly brushed and get ready for riding, and she's a little bit insecure what I'm doing with her here, so her ears go back and forth. She doesn't really mind. She could walk away or give me clearer signs, but she's like, what's going on? I'm not quite sure what that is. At this point, she starts paying more attention to my touch. Definitely sensitive, but Not really defensive, more like curious and cooperative in letting go. Finally, the first signs of a release. I explore the withers, the edge of the scapula, the intercostals, and kind of change the way I address it, change the speed of my movements, just to see where her threshold is. So far, so good. The girth area is the area she reacts mostly. I got told that when she's in the cross tie, you can do her hoofs and do her tail and she's not doing anything. But if you touch the girth area, then she reacts strongly with biting. So I explore and see what she does when she's not in any way confined, and she doesn't seem to mind much. We arrived at a good place and her nervous system was quiet and calm enough. So now it's time to see how she reacts to different ways of touch. So I introduced her to a brush and to a rubber grooming tool, and I'm just going to explore how she handles that. She was not really defensive to that form of touch, and I didn't feel a big difference with both. I felt that she likes slow better than fast, and when I went over the corners of the scapula a little bit too fast, she clearly gave me a sign. But what I also noticed was that she started fiddling around with her mouse when we stood close to the fence. So she started chewing on that wood piece, so definitely a busybody, but no signs of aggression or defense at this point. I would not describe that behavior as aggressive. It's not directed towards the owner, and she just fiddles around. She was a busybody in the paddock already, and she definitely gets triggered by those sounds. So I first would kind of wrap those hangers so they don't create that noise, because that seems to kind of trigger the nervous system and makes her over time even more excited and anxious. So here we are, ready to investigate. I first brushed her in the place where the cross ties are without tying her on to anything the halter, and then no reaction. So we walked away and had some grass so I could make sure that she does not feel like she gets rewarded, that she only gets released out of those cross ties when she acts like a biting maniac. So we rewarded positive behavior. Then I tied her onto one cross tie, then to both, and then to both, and I brushed, and then we interrupted the session and walked away. Her behavior was not directed towards me, really. She just tried to get those noisy cross ties. So I tried to distract her with the cleaning tools and my hands and just see if I could keep her under a threshold, which sets her off. I gave her my hands to nibble on and worked on her while she was nibbling on my hands. And that didn't create that much noise, but she was still a little bit too busy for my taste. With her head, so I decided to interrupt and give her a still point and do some cranial sacral work on her head to kind of slow her down and allow her to focus inward more than to those cross ties, to create a sense of stillness while she's standing there. I decided to play that part of the session in real time because it's amazing how long she stands still and just goes internally. And she never gave me a lot of release or lick and choose before. And after that long session working on her pole, she finally starts getting rid of some of the tension and kind of starts to relax. After that release of her pole, she was definitely more quiet. I still had to be careful of not triggering her behavior by going over her threshold, so I slowed down every time I felt a tendency to go into those cross ties. And my hand on her nose gave her a certain amount of safety. I didn't compress, I just gave her something to push against and to hold, and that was obviously enough now. So that's a good way to start creating a positive experience for her and her owner. From now on, I try to kind of do the same handling. She's still interested in those cross ties, but I try to keep that on a low level and try not to hype up her nervous system and see if we can teach her that being calm and quiet in the cross tie is actually a good way. We worked and got a little more relaxation and lick and chews out of her. And I think that's a good start to create a new pattern with the cross ties. I hope this session and my little video inspires you to be more inquisitive and more creative when you're faced with a challenge with your horse. Often a simple question can create a lot of improvement.